As I continue to think about discipling and discipleship, one of the things we need to remember about being disciple or discipling others is it's not just an issue of giving people information or helping them understand the scriptures or the creeds or giving them good practices, good prayer practices. Really, it is about shaping and forming a person so that how we act, how we behave, how we live is fundamentally different. It's shaped and formed by the kingdom, not by our the world or our internal hearts or resentments or whatever. And so I want to think a little bit about the practice of helping people live forgiveness and mercy and grace. It really is part of what discipleship looks like. I remember many years ago as I was working through some issues in my life with a wise Christian counselor. After I worked through a number of things in my life about a particular person, actually, my counselor had listened to my grievances for some time and eventually stopped and said, well, isn't it about time that you actually forgave them? Which was a really great question to ask. And what I appreciated about it was not preemptive. Sometimes as Christians, we rush to forgive because we're supposed to forgive, so we're going to forgive, and I'm just going to forgive right now. The issue was there was time given to express the grievance and the hurt and the pain and all that kind of stuff really, really, really matters. But at some point, the question really, the discipleship question is, isn't it about time that you forgave the person? If we kind of listen to the scriptures and read the scriptures about the forgiveness of God and yet do not then live that in practice and extend forgiveness to others, we're not being discipled, we're just learning stuff. There is a command, there is an exhortation to let go of offenses that have come against us. It's one of the great challenges of the Christian life. Is living forgiveness means also, of course, receiving forgiveness myself, but also extending forgiveness to others. And quite often in discipling, that needs to be challenged in us. It needs to be invited in us. Part of discipling is saying questions like that. Isn't it about time you thought about forgiving that person and extending grace to that person, living grace in that sort of sense? I guess the other part of it is what does it mean to live mercy? And part of that mercy is sometimes having mercy towards ourselves and living in the truth of the gospel rather than my efforts of self-reformation. You know, again, part of the mercy piece is actually the receiving of forgiveness, the understanding that God is merciful to us. I mean, if I had my druthers, what I would like to do is be able to reform my life personally so that I can be the good person that I think that I'm supposed to be, that indeed I am supposed to be, and not need the mercy or grace or forgiveness of someone else. But that's not how it works, because that capacity is not within us. To live forgiveness and to live mercy is actually to be able to say, I need mercy, come face to face with the reality. And sometimes, again, that can be a discipleship challenge where we have this conversation with someone and say, you need mercy. And there is mercy there for you. There is a God who sees you with mercy, not with condemnation. There is, as it says in Romans, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Sometimes living forgiveness and mercy is actually having the humility to accept mercy, to understand that I am desperately in need of forgiveness, that I was actually the bad guy in this situation and not the good guy. Part of that is the reality of discipleship. Discipleship is not just knowing these things, but practically living these things. We are reminded by Paul as he writes to the Ephesians, which has a lot to do with forgiveness, but also the reality of mercy too in certain ways. He says this, put away from you all bitterness and wrath and anger and wrangling and slander together with all malice. That's our inclination, is when we are hurt, not to forgive, not to extend mercy or even live mercy in any way, but rather to be malicious and grumpy and angry and sometimes slanderous of people. And he goes on and says this, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ has forgiven you. That's the heart of the reality of what it means to be a disciple, is not just to be able to say these things, but to live these things. think one of the great questions, perhaps, this Lent for each of us is there someone that it's time that I forgive, that I let go of? Is there a reality in my life that needs mercy, that I could just simply humble myself and say, I am the bad guy. I need, Jesus, your mercy. Is there someone you need to forgive? Is there some mercy you need to receive? That's the heart of living the reality of what it means to be a disciple.